Our lead story tonight, well, India has responded strongly to a World Health Organization report which looks at global deaths because of COVID. According to the report, India has the highest COVID deaths globally. Let's go over to Rishika for more on that. So Rishika, this is a WHO report which looks at global death estimates, but some startling facts about India there which the government has strongly objected to.
Well, absolutely. The startling fact here, Sonia, very simply is that the Indian government data, according to official estimates, says that 5.23 lakh people have died due to the coronavirus pandemic. The World Health Organization data estimates that 47 lakh people have died in India because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the WHO estimate in terms of COVID mortality, the cumulative number, is 9 times higher than what India is saying at the moment. So India, of course, has objected to this data, and I want to put those objections out at the very outset. The Indian government has said that the model, the data collection, the methodology, the source of the WHO data is something that they have objected to. They've also officially said that the WHO study lacks academic rigor and that the World Health Organization has failed to address India's concerns and disregarded the actual data. What these concerns were, the Health Ministry has not made public just yet. India says that they will not stay silent and will issue a detailed rejoinder. Several other questions that the Indian government has asked on what were the regions that were chosen for this data collection, why only certain regions were chosen. Furthermore, my colleague Parimal is reporting at the moment that India claims that Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan wrote to the World Health Organization 10 times since November but hasn't got a reply. Having said that, this is of course what India is officially saying at the moment. Having said that, there is a glaring discrepancy as far as those numbers are concerned. And what is extremely worrying is the fact that we're not talking about a discrepancy of a few thousand. We're talking about a discrepancy of almost 42 lakh deaths. Data that is imperative for any country or organization to prepare for any future waves of the pandemic.
Right, Rishka, and of course, this as the WHO chief was in India just last month, meeting Prime Minister Modi. The fact, of course, remains that this is something which completely contradicts Indian official data. This is based on models, mathematical modeling, and the report says that's because it didn't get official estimates from India, but India is pointing out that how can you then say with authority that these are the numbers. Here's the official reaction coming in now from India. Dr. V.K. Paul, who heads India's COVID task force, has this to say.
We understand that this report has covered what they label as excess mortality in the years spanning COVID-19 pandemic. India has been clearly telling WHO with all humility and through diplomatic channels, with data, with rational reasoning, that we do not agree with the methodology that has been followed. We have a robust system of the CRS, and we released that report yesterday, and as per law and the timeline, the 2021 numbers will also come.
So India's response there, this of course is India maintains that it has battled COVID much better than the West, and of course in our latest numbers as well. Though our numbers are over 3,000, it's still the positivity rate below 1%. We also spoke to Adar Poonawalla of the Serum Institute of India, who talks about why the booster dose, that the gap between the 2 doses and the booster dose should be reduced.
About the booster drive, because you just recently had vaccinations or precaution doses, as they're being called in India, being opened up for everyone above the age of 18. However, it's not seeing the kind of enthusiasm and drive that we saw for the first 2 rounds. Are you concerned about that? Because obviously boosters are important in how we protect ourselves going forward. And what can we do to change that?
The booster dose will certainly make a huge difference. It is very important though this year that we do boost at least once.
But you did in the past bat for this gap between the second dose and the booster to be reduced from 9 months to six months. Has there been any progress on that?
The reason I was also advocating that was for 2 reasons. One was, for the vulnerable category at least, there's no harm in them taking a booster in 6 months, and also those who need to travel. Because, there's a certain period that you have to have taken a shot before entering in certain countries. So that's why it was making sense, and the government has heard that. They're discussing it, and maybe they'll announce some changes in the coming weeks or month or so.
You can watch that full interview at 9:30 tonight. But moving to the other big headline, well, Jammu and Kashmir now will have a new political map. This is the Delimitation Commission gave its final report to the Election Commission today. This, opponents say, actually gives political advantage to the BJP because the Delimitation Commission has recommended that Jammu, which is dominated by the BJP, actually get extra seats, as well as 9 seats being reserved for the scheduled castes and 9 seats for the scheduled tribes and 7 seats for scheduled castes. So this effectively changes the whole balance between Jammu and Kashmir. And does this mean that the stage is now set for elections soon?
The new poll map of Jammu and Kashmir finally approved. The panel that redrew the boundaries of seats submitting its final report, which was identical to the draft that had been rejected by all opposition parties. 2 years after the region was stripped of its statehood and special status, 90 assembly seats and 5 parliament seats have been notified, paving the way for elections.
डिमांड थी और जो हमारी रिकमेंडेशंस थी नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस की वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं हुई है। उन्होंने बहुत कोशिश की कि अपने तरीके से ये इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसीज के बाउंड्रीज बनाने के लिए, लेकिन मुझे और मेरी पार्टी को पूरी उम्मीद है कि जब भी यहाँ पे इलेक्शंस डिक्लेयर होंगे इनको करारा जवाब हमारा वोटर देगा।
किस डिलिमिटेशन की बात कर रहे हो आप? वो डिलिमिटेशन जो बीजेपी का एक्सटेंशन बना हुआ है, जिन्होंने जो आबादी का जो बेसिस है उसको दरकिनार करके जैसे उनका दिल किया जिस इलाके को जहां जोड़ा जहां तोड़ा, ये तो इसको हम पूरी तरह रिजेक्ट करते हैं। हमें तो इस पे कोई भरोसा नहीं है।
The Commission in a statement says it's factored in the peculiar geocultural landscape, the competing political aspirations of Jammu and Kashmir, vast differences in population density, connectivity, as well as border areas which are prone to Pakistani shelling. The Commission has added 6 new seats to BJP-dominated Jammu against just 1 seat to Kashmir. Even as assembly seats in the Jammu province have been increased from 37 to 43, the electoral representation of Muslims in the Jammu province has drastically come down. Of the 90 seats, 9 seats have been reserved for scheduled tribes and 7 seats have been reserved for scheduled castes. The Commission has recommended 2 additional seats for Kashmiri Pandits and also seats for displaced persons from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. In their objections filed before the Commission, opposition parties have pointed out serious discrepancies in allotting seats. The BJP has rejected the allegations, saying a long-neglected Jammu has got its due share.
कमीशन का सबसे बड़ा ध्येय ये रहा कि सबसे ज़्यादा पार्टिसिपेटिव को रखा जाए और इसीलिए जब कमीशन ने पहली बार जम्मू कश्मीर गए तो हम सभी लोगों को आमंत्रित किया। पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ के भी नुमाइंदे थे, जनरल पब्लिक के भी नुमाइंदे थे, सिविल सोसाइटीज़ के भी नुमाइंदे थे और हमने सभी लोगों से बहुत विस्तृत चर्चा की।
Opposition parties have been alleging gerrymandering as the population was not made criteria for allotting assembly seats. BJP has rejected allegations. Regardless of claims and counterclaims on the fairness of delimitation exercise, it has paved way for holding assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir after 4 years of central rule. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
And in a quick look at other news, Prime Minister Modi is back from his 3-day Europe trip. The government has said that Prime Minister Modi has returned after 65 hours of an official trip with 25 meetings, and he landed and went straight into meetings here in New Delhi as well on the heat wave and the upcoming monsoon. So the government putting out those numbers there of Prime Minister Modi, they say, working without a break. Well, the other big story, Home Minister Amit Shah was in West Bengal today, coincidentally on a day that Mamata Banerjee, the Chief Minister, marked 1 year of her government coming to power. So they attacked each other, this time on the Citizenship Act, with the Home Minister saying the new Citizenship Act will be a reality once the COVID wave is over. Mamata Banerjee says, why is it that the government hasn't brought the bill to Parliament yet?
मित्रों, आज मैं उत्तर बंगाल में आया हूं। मैं आपको स्पष्टता कर जाता हूं, तृणमूल कांग्रेस सीएए के बारे में अफवाहें फैला रही है कि सीएए जमीन पर लागू नहीं होगा। मैं आज कहकर जाता हूं, कोरोना की लहर समाप्त होते ही सीएए को हम जमीन पर उतारेंगे और हमारे भाइयों को नागरिकता देना। ममता दीदी, आपको यही चाहती हो कि घुसपैठ चलती रहे, मगर कान खोलकर वास्तविकता था, वास्तविकता है और वास्तविकता रहने वाला है। इसलिए आप कुछ नहीं बदल सकते हो।
This is their plan. They have not amended if any have seen. Why they have not bringing this bill to this parliament? We don't want any citizen's right to come. We want all we have to stay together. Unity is our strength and divide is fall. It is Swami Vivekananda that said. Now after 1 year he came, he should have been hide his face. What his behavior we have seen at the time of election. हर साल आते हैं, गंदा बात करते हैं.
In other news, 4 terrorists allegedly Khalistani, according to the Haryana and Punjab police, have been arrested in Karnal in Haryana. The police say it is a joint operation of the 2 state forces and that they say that these are Khalistani terrorists who are being backed by Pakistan.
A major terror plot thwarted with the arrest of 4 suspected Khalistani terrorists with links to Pakistan. The suspects caught in a joint operation by the Haryana and Punjab police. After crucial leads from central intelligence agencies, the Haryana police caught the 4 men from a toll booth plaza near Karnal with a large cache of arms and ammunition.
4 आतंकवादी एक गाड़ी में जा रहे थे। इनपुट मिलने पर हरियाणा पुलिस ने उनको गिरफ्तार किया है। उनके पास से काफ़ी बारूद मिला है।
All the 4 accused are from Punjab and were involved in transporting explosives provided by Pakistan-based terror groups to different parts of the country.
ये 3 जो हैं ये फिरोजपुर के रहने वाले हैं और एक लुधियाना का रहने वाला है। इनकी गाड़ी की BDDS टीम की उपस्थिति में तलाशी लेने पर एक देसी पिस्टल, 31 जिंदा कारतूस और 3 IDs बरामद हुई है।
The arms and ammunition recovered from these suspected terrorists include 3 metallic containers packed with 2 kg IED each, 1 country-made pistol, 31 bullets, 1,30,000 rupees in cash, 6 mobile phones. The police have filed cases under relevant sections of IPC, UAPA and Arms Act against the 4 suspects. But more importantly, further investigations can reveal the spread of this terror network and where the consignments of explosives were being delivered. With Mohammad Ghazali, Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
This horrific story now coming from Hyderabad. In this horrific hate killing, a young man, Nagaraju, is murdered by his wife Sultana's relatives because they belong to different religions. He was murdered by them in the middle of a busy road. His wife Sultana desperately tried to save him from her relatives. She says no one came forward to help her.
CCTV footage shows a young man pulled off a bike on a busy road in Hyderabad and beaten to death. Onlookers also captured the wife valiantly trying to stop another hit at the blood-soaked man by the attacker, who she identified as her brother.
అందరు కాలు మొక్కలైతే పబ్లిక్ ఎందుకు వచ్చింది
చేయాలి బేటా
పబ్లిక్ ఎందుకు వచ్చింది
పబ్లిక్ వచ్చే టైంలో వస్తారు బేటా ఎవరి పానం వాళ్ళకే తీపి వాళ్ళ పానం వాళ్ళ కొడతారు
చూడడానికి వస్తారు
25-year-old Nagaraju, a car salesman, had married his childhood sweetheart Syed Ashreen Sultana in an Arya Samaj wedding on January 31st. The bride's family did not approve as they both belonged to different communities. Sultana's brother and his accomplice, who were caught on camera carrying out the attack, have been arrested.
इस केस में जो लोग इन्वॉल्व थे जिन्होंने इस पूरे वाक़े को अंजाम दिया है, उनके नाम है सईद मुबीन अहमद, जो कि 30 साल का है। ये फ्रूट वेंडर है बेसिकली और आइडिया बोलारा एरिया का रहने वाला है, सॉरी बालनगर एरिया का रहने वाला है। और जो दूसरा आदमी है उसका नाम मोहम्मद मसूद अहमद है। ये 29 साल का है, कार मैकेनिक है और ये शेरलिंगमपल्ली एरिया का रहने वाला है। तो इन दोनों लोगों को आज हमने अरेस्ट कर लिया है।
ये केस में बेसिकली हमारा 302 IPC की धारा लगाई गई है और SC/ST एक्ट की धारा भी लगाई गई है। इस केस में अभी इन्वेस्टिगेशन हम बहुत ही जल्दी कंप्लीट कर लेंगे और जो केस को हम फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट के ट्रायल के लिए भी हम लोग अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, वो भी हम डेफिनेटली इंश्योर करेंगे.
The girl's family had reported her missing after she got married. The police had counseled the family that since they are adults, they could marry anyone of their choice. In Hyderabad with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Absolute tragedy there, 2 young lives absolutely ruined. In other news, well, the United States Federal Reserve hiked its rates because of inflation, and the United Kingdom is also expected to announce the hike in rates to counter inflation a day after India's RBI also raised rates by 40 basis points. What's the impact been? This as countries around the world are hiking rates to counter inflation.
The biggest interest rate hike by the US Fed in over 2 decades finally didn't lead to much shock and awe as many feared. The Indian markets were volatile but ended the day flat. That as the Fed ruled out a sharper hike of 75 basis points as speculated. The central bank, battling its highest inflation in 40 years, instead raised rates by 0.5 percentage points in line with expectations. The Fed indicated at least 2 more similar hikes over the next couple of months. The US, which is the world's biggest economy, also contracted in the Jan to March quarter.
Inflation is much too high, and we understand the hardship it is causing, and we're moving expeditiously to bring it back down. We have both the tools we need and the resolve that it will take to restore price stability on behalf of American families and businesses.
The US markets rallied over 2.5% post the Fed's announcement, while the European markets jumped over 1%. Major economies across the world are hiking interest rates to toughen their fight against inflation. The RBI yesterday announced a 40 basis point hike. The US Fed has announced its sharpest hike in 22 years. And the latest in the list is the UK that has announced a 25 basis point hike, taking its interest rate to a 13-year high. While US banks have already passed on the rate hike to its customers, Indian banks are yet to announce this. India's battle with inflation is just beginning. The Finance Secretary told NDTV that it backs the RBI's move to raise interest rates to control inflation. Foreign investors have been pulling out funds from Indian markets since late last year. The sharp interest rate hike raises the question of whether India should brace for a lot more foreign funds draining out of its markets in the coming few months. Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.
And good news on India's biggest IPO of the Life Insurance Corporation of India, which is now fully subscribed on day 2. The policyholder and employee portions have been oversubscribed. The policyholder portion is subscribed 3 times over and the employee portion subscribed 2 times. Also 91% of the retail investor portion has been subscribed, while 40% of the qualified investor book has also been subscribed and 46% of non-institutional investor portion has been booked. Well, Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal today announced a new startup policy for India's capital.
दिल्ली की कैबिनेट ने दिल्ली स्टार्टअप पॉलिसी पास की है. दिल्ली स्टार्टअप पॉलिसी ये जो हमने बनाई है, ये दुनिया भर की जो स्टार्टअप पॉलिसीज है उन सबको इकट्ठा करके उनके जितने भी अच्छे पॉइंट्स थे वो सारे अच्छे पॉइंट्स इसके अंदर हमने डाले हैं कि अगर दिल्ली के रहने वाले युवा दिल्ली के अंदर कोई बिजनेस चालू करना चाहते हैं तो उनको दिल्ली सरकार पूरी तरह से मदद करेगी, हैंड होल्डिंग करेगी.